Hello, you guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to have you here. Happy Friday. I hope that you guys are all having an amazing day today, and I hope you guys have a fun planned weekend ahead. So today we are going to be doing an interview with an ex-MLM rep who's actually in two MLMs. This individual was in Amway, which is surprising because I have not, talked to anyone personally that wanted to be interviewed that was from Amway or had been in Amway, and she was also in Itworks. So we're going to be talking a little bit about her story with Amway and kind of how she went about that, and then also her story with Itworks. And then the next MLM interview we have is going to be with someone who has been in IM Academy, or IM Academy, but I think it's pronounced IM Academy, which I'm so excited to talk to that person with you guys. So with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay, hello you guys. So I want to start this interview off with you kind of talking to us about who you are and what MLMs you've joined, kind of just your starting story on how you got involved with MLMs.
Hi, everyone. I'm 25. I live in the Southeast and I work a 9 to 5 from home. So I'm actually, paid for my time working from home. The earliest MLM memory I have is when I was 7 or 8 and my mom took me to a Pampered Chef party. Typical mom was, we're going to a party. I'm like, okay, this will be fun. Then they talked about kitchen utensils and I was 8 and I'm like, this is not fun. And then like in high school, I went to a Mary Kay party because my sister was in Mary Kay. And I was like, all right, cool. And they were like, the day you turn 18, you're going to sign up, right? And I was like, that's like 3 years away, but sure. And then I ended up obviously not. My sister got out of it. And then in college, because I've been in 2 MLMs personally. In college, I was in a sorority meeting and one of my sisters had a guy come in and he made it sound like, oh, you'll be a brand rep, yada, yada, yada. It'll be great. I was like, oh, this would be good. So I reached out and ended up getting sucked into Amway. I went to Summit, it was all hype. And about 2 weeks after, I was like, I'm not making any money. And so then I quit. I was like, I'm getting my money back because at least they have a money back guarantee. So I was in there for like 3 weeks. I was like, this is scammy. I'm leaving. I was like, this does not seem right. My gut feeling was like, leave. And so went on about my life, got regular jobs. And then in 2020, I saw a TikTok and I was like, that's the life I want. Like, I want debt free. I want to be able to buy my dream house. I don't want to have to go into an office ever again. And so then I joined Itworks. So I joined Itworks May of 2020. And I got out in September, late September, early October of 2020. I got out, which my boyfriend was super happy about because I had mentioned on our first day, like, yeah, I sell coffee on the online. Didn't talk about it much. When I got out, I told him, and he was like, yeah, I thought it was one of those. Yeah. And then he straight up told me, he's like, if you were still in it, he tells me now, he's like, if you were still in it, like hardcore, we wouldn't have worked out.
Really? Kind of funny how you said it's one of those.
3-ish, yeah.
It's also interesting though that you kind of had an experience from a young age. I feel like a lot of people have had that where maybe like their parent had a Mary Kay party or an Avon party like back then. So for you, Amway is definitely something that, or not Amway, Pampered Chef is definitely something that used to happen a lot more, like those in-house parties with like our parents that they would like bring us to. So I feel like that's really interesting that so many of us have that experience of like being a kid and doing that. But what rank did you achieve in Itworks? Because that was the MLM you were in for longer.
I never got past distributor. So I stayed at the very bottom rank the entire time.
You got recruited by the TikTok. So the TikTok was, what was the TikTok talking about that kind of got you intrigued to joining?
It was one of those where it's like one of those sounds where like they just point at random things and have like the pictures and all of that. And it was like, paid off over $100,000 in debt, bought my Tahoe in cash, built my dream home at 25. And I was like, I've got student loans more than I would like to admit, like most people in their mid-20s now. It's like, I want to pay it all off. I don't want to have to stress out about it. That's money that I'm just like throwing at companies. And I'm like, I want my money. Like, I need to keep my money. I was like, I want to build a dream house. I never want to have to go to work. I don't want to put my future hypothetical children in daycare. I want to be with my dog all day. Let me see what's going on with this. Like, if I can do this. And of course, they went through the scripts and I fell for them.
That's interesting. So I haven't really met many people that got recruited through TikTok. So I feel like that's the newer app that they're trying to go on and trying to, I would say, infiltrate the app.
Yes.
and using that more to reel people in. So it's interesting that you're one of the first people I've talked to that got into an MLM through TikTok. Did you end up recruiting in your MLM, or how did that go? And if you did recruit, was that something that was really talked about in Itworks, or did they kind of just talk about only selling the products? You could talk about Amway also if you want to.
So Amway and Itworks are a little different because Amway's very don't use social media, don't do this. So it's like a lot of, we would all get together and cold call people that we knew, like call people that we knew, cold call them and see if they were interested. But I never recruited anyone in Amway. Itworks, I recruited 2 people and I had 1 or 2 people that got placed under me. Almost every single training call would be like, yeah, make sure you post about the products every day for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then the rest of the hour, recruiting.
So recruiting was definitely something that was emphasized in Itworks.
Yeah, we were taught that the business model is built on rubies. And so to be a ruby, you have to have 3 qualified legs underneath you and 2,000 group volume to get to ruby. And they're like, we're built on rubies, which when they get to diamonds, then we're built on diamonds. And I'm like, all right, cool. I know what I need to do. I need to recruit people and go hard on the business opportunity.
Mm-hmm. In quotes. You can't forget the quotes. That's interesting though, that they say that, like that tagline of it's built on rubies, because that's a lot of volume. So a lot of people who aren't familiar with MLMs or just getting in it, you're never really told before you join that you have to do all of these things. You're not told that you're going to have to probably recruit people, because how else are you going to get volume? How else are you going to like build in the ranks? With that though, with Amway, did the cold calls have to do, because I'm always interested in Amway because you don't see much about them on social media. With Amway, was it a lot of the cold calls just trying to like sell the products, or are you trying to recruit people with that?
We start with trying to recruit people, and if they say they're not interested, then we move into the products.
So it starts with recruiting with the cold calls and then moves into products if they don't want to be recruited.
It was always trying to get them to come to one of like the meetings, because the beginning of the meeting was in person, usually held at a church, was where they would go through like all of like trying to get them into the business opportunity. And that's what we try to get them to go to.
So you ended up joining Amway and then you joined Itworks. Is there a reason why you ended up joining another MLM, or after you left Amway, did you know that Itworks was kind of pretty much the same business model?
I knew that it was a business model. I always thought they were a little sketchy and I was never really interested in, but I didn't know what an MLM was. Like I never heard that term. And I joined Amway, ended up getting my money back, but I didn't realize, because they were so different in the sense of how they operated things. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, and I was in such a hard financial position when I ended up going to Itworks. Versus Amway, I was a broke college student, but I still had enough to where I was like, I'm not going to be hurting if I get out. Like, because I had my internship, which thankfully was paid. And then I also had the standard restaurant waitressing, bartending job at night. So I was like, I can pay my rent. I'll be fine. But Itworks, I was like, I have more month than money. That was said a lot in Itworks, of where it's like, you want to get to the point where you have more money than month versus more month than money. And if you stick with it and work hard, you'll get there.
Oh, with that phrase though, with like the work hard, you'll get there. Did they emphasize that, you know, kind of like the people who stay are the people who will one day be successful, and then the people who leave, they're just always the failures? So it kind of, you know, kept you in longer. Is that kind of like what they would talk about?
Yeah, they would be like, if you just stick with it, it's a numbers game. The more people you message, the more people will join. That is not true. I don't know how many people I messaged day in and day out and never got. I don't think I enrolled more than 10 to 15 people between customers and distributors in 4 months.
How much time do you remember kind of putting into the MLM every single day or weekly?
There were 2 power hours a day most days. I would do both of them. And then also team trainings. I would work through the day, because I had a job where when the pandemic happened, we went work from home like most people. But it was a job where it's like there were days where I had nothing that was due. So I didn't have anything to do, because the way it was structured is I had to do the work the day that whatever payment I had to make was due. there would be days where I didn't have much to do. And so I would just sit there and work all day. I would hop on work Zooms all the time, like random pop-up Zooms. Like I was on Zoom for easily anywhere from 2 to 5 hours a day. I'd be on Zoom. And then I'd also be working on the hours that I wasn't.
And then on Zoom, that would be like those power hours that you would be doing
Power
with
hours,
everybody
team
else.
trainings, all of the things.
And looking into that, like seeing how much time you did put in, do you feel like that time was kind of worth it? Like, okay, the reward I got from the MLM was worth the amount of time I was putting in?
No.
When
I got out and I started like deconstructing everything, the MLM pushed me into the anti-MLM community. I started like looking up YouTube videos because I was like, am I crazy? Like, is this just me? Am I crazy? And I ended up coming across Jessica Hickson's Why I Left ITWORKS video.
Yes, I've seen that one.
Yes. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy.
No, you're not.
So,
and I feel like a lot of people feel that way. And when you leave, you kind of feel like, oh, you're the only one that's feeling this way. So you don't know like who to talk to, or like, can you go to someone who is in an MLM before? Can you go to someone who's actually in right now? What are they going to say? You kind of have no one to talk to while you're trying to like process everything that's happened to you. And I feel like it's a whole deprogramming period you go through after an MLM. So we can talk about that actually, because it's interesting you brought it up. So with the whole leaving the MLM and the deprogramming, kind of what were the things that you had to kind of go through with that?
I definitely had to deprogram in the fact that it's okay to post for fun on social media. Like I very rarely post on my Instagram anymore, my Facebook. I ended up deleting the Facebook account that I had when I was in ITWORKS. I was like, I know none of these people, and it's going to take me hours to go through and delete everybody. So I just took like a 3-month hiatus from Facebook completely and ended up getting a new account to where I will only add people that I have like personal relationship with, that I talk to on the daily. And then like, I just had to definitely reprogram that. And it also made me realize like, not to just put blind faith in everybody. Make sure that they're your actual friends and not just trying to use you for a paycheck. When I got out, I hadn't posted for a few days because I was figuring out if I was going to leave or not. And my upline messaged me. I was like, hey, I haven't seen any posts. Like, are you okay? Told her I was thinking about leaving. And she was like, all right, well, just this is the part that got me. She's like, don't cancel your account, but turn off your auto ships. Because you can turn off like your EC or auto ship or all of that stuff, like back office, everything.
Yeah.
But still have an active account. So if I decided to go back, I could re-up that subscription. And she told me to keep it open so that she could build my account to Ruby so that she could get her promotion. Yeah. And then I was like, all right, cool. She's like, and if you wanted to keep your like ADBV auto shipment on so that you can just collect the free paycheck, that would be fine. I was like, no, I have too much product here anyway. How about we don't? And she was like, yeah, well, I'll just have to work harder to make sure you get that personal volume, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, don't worry about leaving the groups. I'll remove you. And I was like, all right, cool. And then the girl that actually enrolled me sent me a text. I was like, I thought we were friends. I thought you would come to me before leaving versus just leaving the groups. When I was removed from the groups, I did not leave them. And in my head, I like gave this whole like polite response. But in my head, I was like, how can you consider me a friend when I have to schedule to talk to you on FaceTime 1 time a month for 15 minutes? That's the only time I hear from you anymore.
That's it? Like, and that's your like direct upline?
That was my presidential upline, just like one step below top of the company. But she enrolled me and then placed me under my direct upline.
And then she was mad that you were out of the groups because your direct upline took you out of the groups.
Yes.
And because you didn't talk to her when she doesn't make the time to talk to you.
I was like, yeah, y'all are great friends. There was one girl, well, 2 girls that still talk to me after I left. And I haven't talked to them in over a year at this point, but they were still like, hey, like if you ever need anything, let us know. Like we would still talk every so often. But everyone else that I was besties with dropped me like a hot potato.
Really?
I didn't hear from anybody else.
And how did that make you feel? Because when you were in your MLM, did you feel like you had that community, and then kind of when you left, it just randomly was gone?
Yeah. All of my friends, because everything was virtual still. I had like my friends in like the neighborhood, like we'd go to the pool and hang out and everything. But like those I thought were like my people. And then they dropped me like a hot potato. I was like, what's going on? And coming from someone who has a history of being tormented at school and not having a community and like abandonment with all of that, and like friends turning their back to be like on the in crowd and everything, childhood trauma, I was like, what's going on? And that sense of abandonment came back to where I thought about going back solely to have my community back, even though I knew it was fake and built on building paychecks for everybody.
I'm so sorry you went through that. And I feel like the MLM leaving could really like bring those feelings back up again that you went through before. And that was actually a question I was going to ask about. If you had any friendships, like kind of your process with leaving, how did that go? Since we're on the topic of leaving with, not many people like reaching out to you and kind of having not many friends once you've left. What was that process like when you did leave your MLM?
It was my upline messaged me. I told her, she removed me from the groups. All of that happened. And when I left, there's a lot of deprogramming. I did have some of my really close friends ask me like, why did you leave? Like, what's going on? Like the friends that were not in it. And I explained it to them and they were like, yeah, but we also know that you're very stubborn and have to figure things out on your own. I was that kid that if mom was like, don't touch the stove, it's too hot, I'd be like, no, it's not. Bam. I was that kid. It was a lot of like deprogramming, talking, a little bit of therapy was involved. Yeah, did a little bit of virtual therapy for a couple months while I was going through all of that to help me feel more normal. She was like, you're not my only client going through this.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
there are
that.
A lot of
like
people in 2020.
Wow. I didn't know that, like, a therapist would be like, yeah, I have a lot of people who are going through that. I mean, that shows something that leaving an MLM isn't this, oh, I'm just leaving. Oh, I tried, because they'll tell you that when you join, it's like, oh, just give it a try. You have nothing to lose. It's like, no, you have a lot to lose.
You have a lot to lose. It tanked my mental health. Like I had worked so hard to get to like a super confident place, like a really good place mentally. In the span of 4 months, I was starting at ground zero again. Like tanked my mental health. I lost money. Anywhere from 500 to $1,000 probably on products in 4 months, because my paychecks weren't that great and my auto ship was always more than my paychecks.
And you could imagine, like, if you would have stayed in longer, how much more money you would lose. Or even if you stayed in while all those trips were happening, or now that they're starting to happen again, like adding those on top of your products monthly, it adds up really quickly.
Yeah. So lost money, like my mental health went down the tubes, and I didn't end up losing friends, but there were definitely some people that until I got out kept their distance.
Like friends in real life versus
like real life friends. Yeah.
I was like, friends. I was like, I guess MLM is real life, but yeah, there is like the real friends versus the MLM friends. So some of your friends kind of like kept that distance while you were in your MLM.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they knew, but they also knew that I'd have to figure it out on my own.
And with that, what kind of was your breaking point? What was the point where you were just like, enough is enough? Like, I'm not really getting up. I'm not making any money. I'm losing money. Yeah. What was that point where you were like, I'm done. I'm ready to get out?
Just the thought of having to go on my phone would cause me to have a major anxiety attack. And I was miserable to the point where like, I didn't want to get out of bed. Like my mental health is like, the financial didn't phase me until after the fact. And I was like, oh, I lost a lot of money. But it was the mental health where like, I didn't even want to look at my phone. I barely got on my phone for those 10 days that I didn't post before I got asked about it.
And I feel like that happens to a lot of people. Like when you leave your MLM, you even have to go through, like you said, where you're like, oh my God, do I have to be on my phone? Like, oh, I need to be posting. It's like that need to always be on your cell phone. That's kind of taught to you in the MLM, that when you leave, you're like, wait, I don't have to post on Instagram if I don't want to post. Because I went through the same thing, like with Beachbody, I was posting every single day. And then I'm like, when I got out, I was like, oh no, I have to post for my feed. And then I'm like, wait, no, I don't. You don't have to post. And that's the thing. How much time did you end up spending like on your phone? Or when they talk about that time freedom, they'll always say, I feel even in Itworks, I see it. Well, they'll be like, oh, you have so much freedom to go on these trips and stuff like that. And then it's like, you're on your phone during that trip. Like you're constantly on it. So what was your experience with like how much time you'd be on your phone?
time freedom and free time are two very different things. My time freedom, I would be on my phone constantly, messaging people, replying to people. It was ridiculous. Like my average daily rough number trying to pull from my memory was easily 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day was my screen time.
And that would be you actively most of the time working on your phone?
Most of that time, probably 8 to 10 hours. So roughly like 60 to 80% of that time would be on my phone.
Like when you really break it down and you look at like, okay, you work at home now. It's like, okay, my real job, I get paid this for this hour salary or whatever.
Yeah.
Versus like the MLM, when you try and break down like how much money you make an hour for how much you work a week, a lot of people are like, I make 3 cents, like so little of money. And then they talk about, oh, well,
them
time
to
freedom.
Work for them.
You're right, though. That is exactly how it is. You pay the MLM, you pay them by doing those buying the products and having the auto ships for them to have you work for them. It's like very weird. It's like very backwards. They should be paying you to promote, just like a lot of companies do. That's what influencer marketing and stuff is, where they pay the influencer to do like an ad for them. And I do see now a lot of MLMs doing that. They'll still have the distributor model, but they'll also be like paying influencers. And I'm like, so they have the money to do that. They just aren't willing to do that. And they want people to keep paying them to work for them.
Exactly. Like I get paid my salary. I know what I'm making every single Friday. If I post on LinkedIn for my company, I don't have to, and I'm not required to post. I do it because I like my company. I work for a fantastic staffing firm. Absolutely love them. But 9 to 5s are the problem. Totally not on actual vacation, have actual free time. When 5 o'clock hits, I can turn off my computer and never look at it again until 8 a.m. the next morning,
Yeah.
But 9 to 5s are awful.
So I kind of wanted to go back because I forgot about it, but the promotion and putting people under you. So I was never in Itworks, but I have read up on them a little bit. How does that work? Like they can place people under you in your team.
I don't know if it's against compliance, but the policy that I was always told is if I was to hire Jane Doe or like recruit Jane Doe, I would enroll her as a distributor under me so I could get the fast start bonus. But within 72 hours, I could put her underneath someone below me to help get them to a rank for me to promote. So like 2 or 3 days to where I could move her, but I would be the one to get the fast start bonus because I enrolled her. Because when I was in, it was if you got 6 loyal customers in your first 30 days, the person who got the 6 customers would get $150 shopping spree, the Itworks website. And then the person who enrolled them would get $150 cash on the next Friday.
Oh, so they have like even more incentives for like the recruitment.
Yeah. Now they have the whole 4+1 thing where it's like 4 customers and a distributor and you get bonuses or something like that.
Did you find that it was very confusing to understand kind of like their comp plan and their rules and all of that? Because I feel like a lot of people find it very confusing to understand.
Yes. I didn't understand half of what I tried to read in the compliance and policies and procedures. It was a lot of legalese. Didn't understand it. The rules were always changing because they never said it was, because the FTC or this is implementing a new requirement, but they were always like, we just need to do this to stay in compliance. And then afterwards, I went back and watched some older videos like I watched Isabella, Cece, and Jessica all the time. Like if I don't need my multiple screens in my office, I go to my living room and turn on YouTube and it's anti-MLM videos 9 times out of 10. But it was complicated and confusing and I never knew how to explain it. And so I just stuck to the scripts that I was sent to send people. Itworks is a very scripted company.
Yeah, I have noticed that. When someone's in Itworks because of everyone's posting the same thing and doing the same thing. Okay, trainings. You said you were on how many trainings a week were you on?
So a minimum of 2, because after a couple of months, I think they knew that I was not going to be around for very long because after a couple of months, they put me in the leadership group, even though I was never ranking up. They put me in the leadership group. I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. So I had the leadership Zoom and the big team training on Monday nights. And then there would be like journaling Zooms that I would pop up that I would go to on like in the morning. And so that would be like journaling, but also like training at the same time, where they would ask very specific, very MLM type questions. Faith manipulation was essentially that one. And then there would be random pop-up Zooms from like the CEO on Sunday nights, like on Facebook, he would go live. So minimum 2 to 3. At most, there was 1 week where I was at one almost every single day.
And they are so long, right? Like about an hour.
Minimum an hour.
And you guys are expected to be on those calls.
Especially if you were in the leadership group.
And then what happened if you like couldn't make the calls? Kind of what would the uplines, how would they be?
Passive aggressive. Very
Really?
passive aggressive. There was one where I couldn't because I think I was sick or I had some family emergency or some legitimate reason. Like I would be able to get off work level reason. And I sent a message to my enroller who ran the Zoom, the leadership Zoom, and I sent her a text. I was like, hey, I can't physically get on this call. And she was like, all right, I guess that's okay. Make sure you watch the recording on my YouTube channel. And I was like, and she was very passive aggressive about it. She's like, you're gonna miss so much great stuff, and like tried to guilt me for not going.
Even though you had like an actual emergency.
Yeah.
But then they say it's your own business.
The business comes first, and it's your own business, so you should invest all of your time into it, but you're not making any money.
I feel like it's very contradicting. Like none of it kind of makes sense, but when you're in the MLM, it feels like it does.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know if you feel that, like when you were in your MLM, did it feel like, oh, that makes sense? And then when you were leaving, it was like, wait, what? Like you were kind of in a trance.
Yeah. Everything, it seemed to make sense because everything they said, like if you don't think about it too hard and you don't do the mental gymnastics of it, it makes sense. Like it's logical. Okay, it's a numbers game. The more you message, the more you enroll. It seems like there's a correlation there. You get out and you're like, wait a second, I messaged how many people and got how many people? Those don't correlate at all. Like I've messaged hundreds, if not thousands of people in my 4 months, and I've only recruited less than 20.
I think about my time. I'm like, oh, I understand that. Yep. It's the same for me. And it feels like a trance for myself to look back on. So I always kind of like ask that because it's like when you're in it, there's so much manipulation that goes on where they recruit you at a vulnerable time, like yourself. You said you were going through a lot financially. So then they kind of reel you in with that. Yes. And then they bring you in and then everything kind of makes sense with what they're saying when you're in. But then when you're finally out of that mindset and have allowed yourself to see a different perspective, it shifts and it like changes everything. And you're like, wait, none of that makes sense. Like, let me actually look into that. And it's like, when you're in your MLM, did you actually look into anything or did you just kind of listen to the upline and be like, okay, you're successful. Yeah, I'm going to do that because you're seeing success.
It was definitely more of, I thought I could trust her. So I was like, all right, cool. And I got into the mindset of if anyone says that this is insert common name for an MLM here, that they're just a hater, that they failed. Like, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make $1 million. And then when I got out, I was like, what? And that's when I started looking into things more when I actually got out.
Yeah. And then with that, do you remember kind of any shady tactics that they would use to reel people in, whether that's to buy the product or to recruit or anything like that?
They are definitely big on posting before and afters. I know Jessica's mentioned this a couple of times because they to this day still use hers of people that are no longer there saying, oh, my girl Ashley, and it's really me or Jessica or Sally Sue who quit 10 years ago. Like other people's before and after saying like, oh, this is my bestie. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I know who your bestie is because she's your sideline. Yeah. That is not her. So there was definitely a lot of that. There was a lot of guilt tripping. The don't make your why your excuses was a big one, where if you were like, I can't work tonight, I need to spend time with my children, they'd be like, well, that's turning your why into an excuse. So definitely a lot of like the guilt tripping was one of the shadiest things that I saw in there. And then if someone asked a question that they didn't like, they would just get kicked out of the Zoom. The host would remove them from the Zoom.
No way.
Yeah, if they said something that they didn't like. I don't know if it was someone who was in the MLM or if it was someone sneaking onto the MLM Zooms. Yeah. I don't know. But if I would like see a question and then all of a sudden that person would no longer be in the Zoom.
I'm sorry. I've never seen that before. I've seen it when, like, if I go in a Zoom and I see another like anti-millennials in a Zoom, they may kick them out if they're asking like funny questions. But like
Yeah.
for someone to just be in there and ask like one simple question, that's logical. Like, hey, do you have an income disclosure statement? Or what are the odds of people who make money in here? They just kick them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. The only exception is if it's like an opportunity Zoom where it's people not
Oh, yeah.
currently in, then they wouldn't. But like if someone were to come in and be like, the math ain't mathin', like what's going on, like start questioning the MLM, they would either skirt around the question, or if it was someone that they knew wasn't gonna make the money anyway, they would just remove them from the Zoom. They wouldn't
That's
kick them out of the
wild.
group, but they would remove them from the Zoom and then just like play it off as, oh, must have been a technical situation.
At least say you kicked them out. At
Yeah.
least be honest about it.
There's a lot of the deceitfulness that goes along with it as well.
Are there any other, I guess, shady tactics that you kind of remember to get people reeled in to the MLM?
Deceitfulness, faith manipulation, guilt
Mm.
tripping. Faith manipulation is a big one that I definitely saw a lot. In my head, I'm like, Jesus would flip the table of the temple that you're in. Like, you'd be flipping this MLM table over because of the manipulation, because of taking a lot of things out of context, because of the deceitfulness and the lying and the guilt tripping and the passive aggressiveness.
Mm.
That's not Christ-like behavior, yet you claim to be a company founded on Christian values and morals.
I've heard that actually, because I heard that recently. I reacted to like an ITWORKS opportunity call, and the one person was raving about, oh, yeah, the CEOs prayed over us at the table when all the uplines were there.
I mean, I'm all for prayer. I am all for faith. I love me some Jesus. But I do not love it when people use the Bible, because I was in seminary for a short time, because I worked in ministry for about a year. So I have read it cover to cover, basically. MLMs are not biblical. Using your faith and your religion to manipulate people to grow your paycheck. No, that's not how it works. You don't manipulate them to make yourself more money.
When you break down MLMs and you take out the people or whatever, it's really built on the upline. Like you said, the ITWORKS people will just be putting people under. Like, how can I place that person? Asking you, you said you wanted to quit the MLM and they still were like, can you keep your account open so like I can rank advance? It all is rooted in how can I level up in the MLM? How can I get to the next rank to make me even more money? And even if people like unknowingly, like they don't know that the people under them will never get there too. It's like, even if you don't know the facts of like income disclosures, if you haven't been looking into them, you're still having to use people under you to get there. So with that, I know we talked about money for a little bit and like jobs. So in the MLM, where did you find that most of your money came from? I know even though you were in the negative, but when you did get a paycheck, where was that money coming from? AKA, was it coming from, a sale of a product or bonuses, recruitment? Kind of where did you see most of your money coming from?
Most of mine did come from products, but I recruited more loyal customers than I did distributors.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't great at sealing the deal on distributors, but I could on loyal customers. But I did see that when I did get a couple of the people placed under me, and then the two that I did recruit, whenever they sold something, my paycheck did get a little bit higher from who was under them, who they got to buy products from. But the volume was never enough for me to actually promote to anything. But yeah. But I did more product than people, but that's because I didn't recruit very many people. Recruited more customers.
How much is the difference in recruitment bonuses versus like product bonuses and commissions?
Until they started doing this for and a friend situation late last year, every bonus I can remember except for that fast start bonus was all recruitment based. And even then the fast start was because I had to recruit somebody who had to get 6 customers for me to get a fast start bonus. And they also had to have an auto shipment turned on of 80 BV or more for me to get my fast start. But yeah, like when you got to a certain rank, if someone in your downline recruited and got their fast start bonus, you got an additional bonus as well. And then if you look at all of the bonuses, you have to hit a certain rank, which requires you to recruit and hit a certain amount of group volume. You have to recruit because you have to have a team under you to get certain bonuses. You have to be a certain rank, and to get to any rank. And one that's not talked about a lot is the executive rank, which is above distributor but below Ruby. You just have to have 2 qualified legs underneath you. You have to recruit to get even to executive.
to that second ring.
To that second ring. And then you have to recruit some more to get to ruby, to emerald, to diamond, double, triple ambassador, presidential ambassador.
So there's no way to get up in this MLM just by selling products.
No, you have to have at least 2 people to get above the distributor rank.
Interesting. That leads the question of what is this really? Because if a company cared about products, they're an MLM, they're based on products, you would be able to get to that number one spot when you look at an income disclosure statement, the spot that's making the most money. You should be able to get there by selling a product, but you can't.
Not at all. Is to get to ambassador, you have to have a presidential, triple, and a double underneath you, plus a stupid high amount of volume.
I think it's ridiculous.
It's like 250 or 300,000 to get to ambassador. Plus, you have to have a triple, a double, and a presidential, which are huge.
250,000. How do you get that? Unless you have thousands of people under you that are buying products, but also selling or also signing up new distributors who are buying products.
Yeah. That's pretty much the only way you can get up there, is to have people purchase more product than they need and essentially inventory load. There's a video that I saw of our favorite faith manipulator who has said that she has never maintained ambassador. She hit it that one time and did not maintain it. Her lifetime rank is ambassador.
But they can't maintain that rank.
There might be like one or two people that are maintaining. But I know one of the couples I'm thinking of are also black diamonds, which means you went double ambassador. So you had 2 accounts that went ambassador. And then you also made $100,000 a month for 6 consecutive months.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And the first black diamond was the CEO's daughter. She was the first one.
Makes sense.
We
can all leave our theories.
Sure she was the first one.
Yeah. Okay. So with all of that, is there anything else that you would like to talk about with your MLM experience before I kind of ask you the last question of the interview?
No, that was pretty much it. That it's not a good idea to join an MLM ever for any reason whatsoever.
I do agree. So I guess ending, is there any piece of advice that you would give to someone who is in an MLM right now or thinking of joining one?
Do your research, find videos that, if looking at legal documents essentially does not make sense to you, find videos that break them down, like policies, procedures, compliance, income disclosure statement. Do your research on them before you ever think about joining an MLM. And then if you're in one, get out. Chances are you're not going to make any money. Yeah, if you have questions about why you want to get out, you have a plethora of people that are more than willing to welcome you in and answer your questions and to help you process and deprogram things as you need it. I'm more than happy to help.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point too. I know for me, I didn't read anything. I didn't read policies and procedures. I didn't understand really how to read comp plans or anything like that. So when I got out, I was like, I am making it my mission to understand these things so that I can, when I do a deep dive, read it to you guys and be like, this is what it means. Like read it and then be like, okay, let's decipher what's actually going on in this graph or with this. So that's why it can be really good. Yeah. To seek out, okay, if I don't understand it, where is there someone online? Because sometimes it's Reddit, sometimes it's other platforms that you have someone who will literally show you and break it down point by point. Because I think that MLMs do this on purpose. They make it really, really difficult to understand.
Yeah, they're not meant to be easily digested.
Okay, you guys, and that is the end of today's interview. I thought today's was so much fun. I just really like talking to this individual and being able to hear what she has to say about her experience being in MLMs, but also her advice about leaving multi-level marketing companies and really talking about the deprogramming period that happens after MLMs. I don't really think that that's a topic that is talked about a lot, and I know I don't see many individuals talking about that, but it's a real thing when you leave an MLM to go through a whole entire deprogramming period where you have to train yourself not to do the things that you were taught and sometimes manipulated to do in a multi-level marketing company. So I found it really interesting that this individual, talked about that and shared her story with that. So with that being said, please leave your support down below for this individual. She was amazing. Thank you so much for letting me interview you. So with that being said, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in it should be a very exciting video. Let me check. Let me just double check real quick of Monday's video. Oh, okay. If it's the video I think it's going to be, you guys are not going to want to miss this one. So put your freaking alarms on for 11 a.m. Central Time for Monday. I'm really excited for you guys to see it. So that being said, don't forget to leave a like and a comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in Monday's exciting video.